Welcome to the program. I'm Linda Ogutu. Now, the International Criminal Court Appeals Chamber is scheduled to make a landmark ruling on the application of Rule 68, which is likely to strengthen or weaken the prosecution's case against Deputy President William Ruto and journalist Joshua Arap Sang. ICC prosecutor Fatou Bensouda, after closing her case against Ruto and Sang, that is in September last year, asked the trial chamber to issue a ruling on admissibility of Rule 68 before the case moves to the defense stage.
Last month, Ruto and Sang appeared before the court at The Hague for the hearing of oral submissions of their motion of no case to answer, which seeks to terminate the case. Trial Chamber 5, which is hearing the case against Ruto and Sang, had allowed Bensouda to use primary evidence of 5 witnesses who had recanted their evidence under Rule 68. The decision elicited legal and political dissatisfaction, with the court being accused of violating an agreement made during the 12th session of the Assembly of State Parties in 2013.
Look at the quantity, look at the quantum, and don't look at reliability. And we say, in part, that's informed by an appreciation by the prosecution that they are in significant and obvious difficulties when it comes to the foundations of their case.
And politicians crisscrossed the country to demand non-application of the rule. Ruto's and Sang's defense teams resorted to a legal battle and moved to the appeals chamber to challenge the decision.
Kesi ya kisheria, tutatumia sheria, tutatumia siasa, tutatumia maombi ili hiyo kesi isambaratike.
Kwa sababu tuliamini ya kwanza kwamba kesi ingekuwa ya justice. Lakini wakati walisema ya kwamba kesi watalazimisha, tumesimama kusema la.
Kenya, Uganda and Namibia, which are also opposed to application of Rule 68, requested to be allowed to submit their views, but were denied the chance by the trial chamber. The appeals chamber, in its decision, will consider submissions of the defense teams, the AU, the prosecution, and the victims' legal representatives. The prosecution and the victims' legal representative, Wilfred Nderito, on the other hand, want the appeals chamber to uphold the trial chamber's decision. Should the chamber dismiss application of Rule 68, which allows admission of prior recorded statements, the prosecution has expressed concerns that it will suffer a big blow in its efforts to tighten charges against Ruto and Sang. Ellen Onjiro, KTN News.
Let's stay within the corridors of justice. The Court of Appeal is tomorrow set to rule on the retirement age for judges in Kenya. Deputy Chief Justice Kalpana Rawal, Supreme Court Judge Justice Philip Tunoi, and High Court Judge Justice David Onyancha had challenged their retirement at the age of 70 and lost their battle at the High Court, which ruled that judges should retire at 70. Justices Tunoi and Onyancha are 72 years old, while Justice Rawal turned 70 last month. Justice Tunoi and Justice Onyancha challenged their retirement age of 70 stipulated by the new constitution, arguing that they were sworn in under the old constitution, which set the retirement age at 74 years. High Court Judge Justice David Onyancha has since opted to retire at the end of this month, leaving Justices Rawal and Tunoi to challenge their retirement age. Okay, let's see if we can get to understand a little bit of what's going on and what the implications are of whatever decision is arrived at tomorrow. And we're bringing in Edward Onge, a lawyer. He's speaking to us from our City Center studio. Mr. Onge, thank you so much for joining us on Newsdesk this afternoon. So let's try and see what exactly will it mean if the court decides tomorrow that these judges need to retire at the age of 70. What are the implications?
What are the implications? It's clear. I mean, we have vacancies of judges. Fresh ones will be appointed to take their places.
Mr. Onge, I'm struggling to hear you. Can you speak up a little bit?
I'm sorry, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Just speak up a little bit.
I'm sorry?
I'm saying speak up a little bit. I'm struggling to hear you.
Oh, I can speak up again. I mean, depending on which way the court of the Supreme Court rules, their job is to uphold the Constitution. If they agree with the court below that the judges have to go home, there are vacancies to be filled, applications will be, new judges will be appointed to take their place.
What is the concern? Because then a lot of people need to understand then what is the process that is involved in getting judges of the Supreme Court? How long does it take? Could you take us through that?
There is a Judicial Service Commission who are tasked with that mandate to vet and interview judges. They will advertise the vacancies, give time frames, then interested parties, interested candidates will apply, they'll vet the applications. Once the applications are vetted, then they can forward the names to the President for appointment. Note that the President will send the names again to Parliament, then once Parliament has approved them, then the President can appoint them. So it's quite a bit of time that is not going, it's going to take not less than 2 months.
So clearly we don't have enough time to do that.
There is time. I mean, this is a process. Unfortunately or fortunately, it's a process that is in the Constitution. There is no shortcut about an appointment of a Supreme Court judge or a High Court judge or a Court of Appeal judge. They have to go through that process.
Okay. So we all are aware of the allegations that are being leveled against Justice Philip Tunoi, the bribery allegations. Of course, that case is going on. The Judicial Service Committee recommended that a tribunal be set up, but then there are those who are saying that probably with the allegations that are now facing Justice Philip Tunoi, probably all the judges need to step aside. All the judges should just retire and we see if we can get new judges at the Supreme Court. What are your thoughts on that?
That could be a blanket condemnation of an institution. An allegation has been cast on one member of that institution. That then doesn't mean that the entire institution needs to go home. You have also to note that the JSC has recommended that a tribunal be formed, and you notice the judge has said he's ready to face the tribunal. It is him who's facing the tribunal and not the judiciary.
Okay, thank you so much. Edward Onge, lawyer, thank you for helping us to understand the implications of the decision that probably will be made tomorrow. Let's see how that plays out. Thank you so much for your time. Now, the IEBC has today received 560 million shillings worth of funding from the European Union to assist in its preparation for the upcoming 2017 general election that include an upcoming mass voter registration exercise. Well, this comes amid criticism from the opposition that has rubbished the Commission's claims of underfunding, saying that it is a ploy to disenfranchise core strongholds. The Commission has maintained that it is an independent body with no ulterior motives.
We deploy about 2,800 kits, okay? But following discussions we've had with our development partners, they've kindly supported us with an additional extra kit for every kit that the government of Kenya is providing. So doubling up the number of kits that we're going to use in the field during this mass voter registration exercise. So from where we sit, had we had enough resources, we could have used all our 15,000 registration kits, but since we have budgetary constraints, we have to work with what we have now.
Has to be adopted. Then to the finance, which is important aspect of the credibility of the IEBC, which needs adequate and timely funding. There were concerns related to the functioning of the state institutions.
Let's touch on politics now. Court leaders have hit out at Jubilee administration, saying Uhuru and Ruto's government has failed to deliver the 2013 pre-election promises to Kenyans. Led by Wiper Party Secretary General Hassan Omar and Makueni Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr., Court says the government has plunged the country into an economic crisis through mega corruption scandals, among them the Eurobond scandal. Jeff Curry just returned from Kibwezi in Makueni, where they held a series of rallies to support Wiper's flag bearer, retired Colonel Philip Mumo, in Friday's Masongaleni ward by-election.
It is a government which fundamental policy yake is corruption. Wewe hujatimia kuwa mwana Jubilee kama wewe hujakuwa fisadi kikamilifu. It is one of the core values of the Jubilee regime. Ndio mimi nilipoambiwa ati Masongeleni chap chap akiwa amefadhiliwa na Jubilee anakuja kubabaisha jimbo la code. Nilisema nitawacha ile shughuli tuje kupambana naye.
It is a statement by Wiper Secretary General Hassan Omar while on a campaign trail in Masongaleni, Kibwezi, Makueni County. Omar, with his Senate colleague Mutula Kilonzo Jr., led other CORD leaders to counter what has been termed as efforts to stop Machakos Governor Alfred Mutua's Maendeleo Chap-Chap movement from dividing the Ukambani vote. Wiper leaders have accused the Machakos governor of being used by Jubilee government to split the Kamba in the next general election. CORD says Jubilee has been using money to sway voters in the region following his endorsement of tip-tip party candidates.
Tip-tip, chap-chap, chaf-chaf, zote pamoja. Sisi hatutakubali upuzi yao. Wakuja kuleta pesa kidogo kidogo hapa, ile wameiba Eurobond, pesa kidogo kidogo hapa, badala ya kutengeneza mabarabara mnakuja unaadaliwa na pesa kidogo, wakuja na barabara ya Eurobond. Ndio tujue kweli hao ni wanaume.
Pesa inatumana na chap chupu chapata. Tip tapata te. Sawa. Mkule, sisi tutasema pesa haiwezi kutosha mtoto wetu Kalonzo Musyoka.
Wiper Party is rallying behind its candidate, retired Colonel Philip Mumo, and Makueni Governor Professor Kivutha Kibwana has thrown his political weight behind Mumo, who will be battling it out with 4 other contestants in Dominic Mutoto of Muungano Party, Richard Munyoki of Chama cha Uzalendo, Charles Kioko of Labour Party of Kenya, and Florence Kilonzo of the Independent Party, famously known as Tip Tip.
Tunasema kwamba candidate wa CORD katika Masongaleni ni Mumo.
Friday's by-election has been termed as a litmus paper to test the region's political popularity between Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka and Alfred Mutua, who has been on the receiving end, accused of being a Jubilee mole. Masongaleni ward was left vacant following the death of John Kilonzo, who was found dead in one restaurant in Mtitwande on September 27th last year. Jeff Kirui, KTN News.
You're watching Newsdesk. Thank you so much for staying with us. We're taking a break. We'll be back with more news.